Traffic here is something else. That was going to be a 5-kilometer drive. It's going to take 2 to 3 hours. It almost looks like you could be in Latin America, Brazil. You've got the favelas on the hillside. There's dog attacks here.
Yeah, very often.
And big dog. What's cooking here for lunch?
Milk tea with a little bit of rice. Sheep tail.
Sheep tail. Local toilet here. These people do not have any form of heating apart from fire. They don't have running water. Do you think the government's handling the economy and the standard of living of its citizens well?
They're failing 100%.
Soviets taking down Nazi Germany here. High levels of pollution. Many times over the safe limit. The fetuses can actually get severely impacted. Children can often come out with behavioral and cognitive issues. So that's a bear over there. So this is a bear.
Because he's a shaman, a spirit enters into his body. The spirit asks to, like feed it with sometimes, like some milk, maybe with some vodka.
What comes to mind when you think of Mongolia? Wide open spaces, horse riding. Yes, these are all part of Mongolia's rich culture. But did you know that Mongolia's capital city is the most polluted capital city in the world? The pollution is so bad here that adults and children alike face major health complications. It's also the coldest capital city in the world. Temperatures reaching minus 40 degrees in winter, with a couple million people living in some of the most brutal environments in the world. Huge power plants let out plumes of smoke over the city's skyline. Big financial districts tower over informal neighborhoods. This is Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia's capital city.
This is what it's like, living in the worst air pollution in the world.
2/3 of people are dissatisfied with the state of Mongolia's democracy.
Welcome to Ulaanbaatar, capital city of Mongolia. Fascinating, extremely unique, one of the most unique cities I think I've ever been to. Big country, Mongolia, huge country, but the majority of the population actually come here to the city to look for a better life. Unfortunately, a lot of people actually fall through the cracks in this city. They come here to try and build a better life because there's less opportunities out in the plains, and they come here and it doesn't work out for a lot of them. So 50% of the city actually live in temporary housing, and 50% of them live in poverty. So that means 25% of the city live in poverty. That's quite a shockingly high number. So today we're going to explore around the city, meet some local people in all different kinds of neighborhoods, the good, the bad, and the ugly, try and get a broad spectrum understanding. So Mongolia was under Soviet rule for 70 years. So you can see a lot of the kind of hangover of that. You can see writing in Cyrillic, and you'll see the architecture through the day. It's very interesting. It's a mixture of many architectures, but you can definitely see Soviet influence radiating through the city. Come to the top of this hill and you can see the scenes here are absolutely insane. Definitely not what comes to mind, at least for me, when I think of Mongolia. I think, you think of wide open spaces, horse riding, yurts, or as they're locally known here, gurs. So these neighborhoods are called gur neighborhoods, yurt neighborhoods, but you can see there's a combination of yurts and this kind of informal housing. These people do not have any form of heating apart from fire. They don't have running water. They have to go to wells to get their water. That's year round. So in winter, when it's minus 40 on average, in one of the most polluted cities in the world, they're out here getting water on their backs, walking up and down these hills, these huge sprawling neighborhoods. I mean, this is quite something profound to see. So here's the local toilet here. Not much privacy though. So we've met a local family and they've invited us into the gur. So it'll be interesting to see inside. Semenu. Oh wow. Beautiful house you have. Is this standard for a gur, or is this quite an upmarket one, do you think?
I think it's quite an upmarket one.
Yeah.
Usually it's not like this.
What's cooking here for lunch?
Milk tea with a little bit of rice. Sheep tail.
Sheep tail tea and rice.
Yes.
What's the temperature inside in winter in here?
Very warm, so she's very satisfied.
Obviously you have to go outside to go to the bathroom. Is that quite intense when you go outside because it's so cold, or are you just used to it now?
It's not easy. I got used to it.
All right.
Their houses are not connected to water and heating systems, so they have to burn coal or wood to generate heat in their houses.
Okay, so we've met this local lady and her son, and they've just gone to pick up some water from the well. How far do you have to walk today to get the water?
Maybe 5 minutes of walk.
What do you do for a living?
Her profession is a barber.
Is it a good life in Mongolia?
She said, if you work and live, it's a nice, good life.
Thank you. So this is the well here, and here's the hose. This is the office where you pay 2 MNT for 2 liters. Very affordable. Okay, so we've come to one of the wells and we've met the lovely local lady that's running it. In winter, is it hard living here? Because I've heard that it's like minus 40 degrees and it's very high pollution.
Yeah, the air pollution is very hard, but my job is a very important job because we have to provide people with healthy and safe water. She wears like 3 layers of 3-4 layers of clothes during the winter time.
We've actually met a local shaman who's invited us into his gur here. Wow. So that's a bear over there. So this is a bear skin. Is it expensive to buy a bear skin?
Approximately 800 USD.
Oh, and these are wolf skins. Oh, there's the head. There's the nose of the wolf.
Because he's a shaman, a spirit enters into his body. That spirit asked specifically to have this kind of bear skin. The spirit asks to, like feed it with sometimes, like some milk. I don't know. I didn't specifically ask, but I'm thinking maybe with some vodka, so
Wow.
They perceive that it is alive.
And then he's doing ab workouts in the meantime. What does being a shaman in Mongolia entail?
Shamanism comes from his ancestors, 4 generations above him.
Okay.
And he's saying that he doesn't know his ancestors well because of the anti-religious purge in 1939, the end of 1930s. Over 10,000 monks were killed by the Mongolian local government.
Are you happy with the state of Mongolia at the minute? Do you think the government's handling the country well?
They're not leading the country well. Rather than doing lots of mining, invest the money from the mining to other sectors like education sector.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. So you can see above me is the pylon lines, very low, and they get very close to a lot of the buildings around here, and obviously that's dangerous to health, the radiation that comes off the cables, but then also obviously you're living in one of the most polluted cities. UNICEF put out a statement that I saw that was talking about how the fetuses of pregnant mothers are in great danger here, and it can actually, because of this high levels of pollution, many times over the safe limit, the fetuses can actually get severely impacted. The children can often come out with behavioral and cognitive issues.
Iridni is only 5 months old, but he's already been hospitalized. 6 times.
Ер нь тэгэл ингээл нүр ам хамрын даатал модал гэсээр ингээд хөхөрөх ч юм уу тийм хөр шинж тэмдүүд илээ. Тэгэл ер нь шууд очлоо доо яардаг гэсэлмжтэй.
So do you think that this is caused by the pollution?
Тийм ер нь жирэмсэн болоод нөгөө тех хугацаанд яг ингээд нөгөө агаарын бохирдлоос болоод утаатай орчинд байсаар аваад ингээд дархлаа мутаж гэх юм уу уушгиндаа юм.
According to the research of UNICEF, every year 400 children under age of 5 die due to the air pollution.
Toxic air could lead to an epidemic of lung cancer.
It's unlivable really in terms of health. We just arrived at this black market area where apparently they sell basically anything you can imagine. Been told to be careful with the camera because people don't like it too much, and there's also pickpockets around apparently, so keep an eye out. So we come to this stall here and they have little statues of Stalin, Hitler and Lenin. So they're selling foxes here. There's a black fox.
Yeah, black fox.
Wow. These baskets are for putting animal feces in, and then you burn that to heat your houses sometimes.
Yeah, you just carry in your back, and then you just pick it up and just put it like this.
Right. And that's a really economical way of heating your home, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've met a man who's selling furniture. Have you been coming to this market for many years?
25 years she has been working.
25. How has Ulaanbaatar changed in the last 20 years?
Lots of construction going on.
Construction, so the city's growing a lot. Do you think the government's handling the economy and the standard of living of its citizens well?
They're failing 100%.
Really? What are they failing on?
Before the democracy, it was all run by the government, but now everything is private, so there's no economical policy. All the private sectors are increasing prices wherever they want.
What would you like to see them do?
We have to have policy based on people's current living situations rather than just policies and regulations that are not very close to our current living situation.
Do you feel like the government doesn't understand the struggles of everyday people?
Yes, exactly, that's what.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so we've met a lovely lady, Oyuntia.
She's not from the city, she's from some other countryside area, and she came to the city 4 or 5 years ago when her kids become a student.
There's much better opportunities here for your children than where you came from.
The only reason they came to the city is for the benefit for their kids, and
The big dog.
yeah, and the main reason is for more opportunities for them, for work and stuff. But she is saying that their countryside life is uncomparable.
Right.
And I can feel that she loves the countryside where it's open, and she likes the lifestyle of herding the livestock and everything.
It's kind of a sacrifice then.
Yeah.
And what do you hope the future holds for your children?
Stable job and houses, maybe apartments preferably, and then eventually her and her husband would like to move back to the countryside.
How do you view the government in this country? Is it doing a good job?
The government is very poorly managed in the country. In the city, there are lots of car accidents, and because of the infrastructure, the road outside of the city to countrysides, they're not very safe.
So this lady here just asked us if there was, if the dog is dangerous, and then she picks up a rock. And you were saying that there's dog attacks here?
Yeah, very often.
Because
Especially when
it's
the
very
car is
frequent.
open. Yeah, it's very frequent.
Oh, wow. And does the government do anything about that, or?
Not really.
So we just climbed up this small mountain here. There's this huge mosaic from the Soviets that they built in 1971. Soviets taking down Nazi Germany here. Pretty profound stuff. I'm sure they didn't realize that the Soviet Union was going to collapse just 20 years after this was built. Space exploration. So we're actually on the other side of the river at the moment. Where we've been is way over on those hills earlier in the video, up on those, those informal houses where we went into the Gurs. And this is actually the more upmarket area. And there's lots of construction going on here, lots of new apartments. There's beautiful restaurants, and there's even townhouses being built over here. But one thing about this city which is insane is the traffic. Sometimes it can take you hours to get very small distances, and they're just building and building, more people moving here, new houses and things, and it's just not sustainable. There's no metro, there's no efficient public transport, so it's just kind of a disaster waiting to happen in terms of like the logistics of the city. That's only also going to contribute to the pollution problem, so it doesn't seem like there's much of a solution at play for that at the moment, and that's coming from the locals saying that the government's not doing anything to kind of alleviate congestion on the roads or the pollution, or build affordable housing for the poorer communities. Really wasn't expecting Ulaanbaatar to be this fascinating. It's one of the most unique cities I've ever been to in the world. It almost looks like you could be in Latin America. Brazil, you've got the favelas on the hillside, and then down you've got the apartment blocks, Rio de Janeiro or something. On our way driving to one of the power plants here, and the traffic's absolutely insane. The traffic here is something else. That was going to be a 5-kilometer drive to that other power plant. It's going to take 2 to 3 hours. The traffic's that bad here. And then here we have the power plants. I thought that they had banned coal in Ulaanbaatar, but apparently that they've just brought in a different kind of coal, a more eco-friendly coal.
The city has ambitious plans to ban raw coal. They want to force people to use cleaner, processed coal. But processed coal is expensive.
Power plant in the background here, and there's a huge one here, and then there's another massive one that we were going to go to down the road, but like it could be like a 4 to 6 hour round trip to drive 10 kilometers. It's unimaginable, but yeah, that's obviously a big contributor to making this one of the most polluted cities in the world. You imagine here in winter, when the smog's low, it's in a kind of a basin in a valley, all the smoke, the pollution from all this traffic, these power plants.
Traveling the world and meeting inspiring people and learning their stories gives a great insight into life on the ground in some of the more undiscovered countries. So it can sometimes be a bit disappointing to see countries and people being misrepresented in the news. Mainstream media tends to give more attention to the Western world and only mentions countries like Mongolia during the hardest times it faces. That's one of the reasons I'm partnering with Ground News on this video. They're an app and a website that gather news sources from around the world to give readers an on-the-ground perspective on current events, no matter where they're occurring. Recently I came across this story on preliminary preliminary election results showing Mongolia's ruling party in the lead. Ground News found more than 40 articles from across the world covering this, mostly coming out of the US. Comparing coverage, France 24, owned by their nation's government, reported this election was dominated by corruption, while Montsame, funded by the government of Mongolia, writes this election marks the beginning of a new revival, ushering in the second wave of democracy and reform. As you can see, important context like who owns a publication can heavily influence their framing of a story. So being able to easily compare coverage on any story with this level of insight really helps me understand how perspective largely depends on where you're located and the type of news you see, or don't see for that matter. Which is why I check the app for news before I travel to any new country. Ground News also shows you what way news outlets and articles tend to lean politically, and even who funds each source, which can be useful to gain a greater understanding of their perspective. Their goal of bridging the gap between countries and ideologies is important. Ground News is independent and supported through subscriptions, so their only agenda is to provide high quality content. You can check them out at ground.news/indigo or scan this QR code to save 40% on the same Vantage plan I use for unlimited access to all their features. I've been using this website frequently and it has been quite enlightening. Thank you to Ground News for sponsoring this video.
So we're down in the main square here and you can see all the financial district, really quite modern, but then you have these Soviet era buildings mixed in with it. And then there's the parliament with Genghis Khan sitting in his seat there. Okay, Amber, so amazing day exploring Ulaanbaatar. What would you like to see change about the city?
The government leaders, because there are lots of corruption and everything. So that needs, if that could be changed, I guess there'll be much more happy living environment for everyone.
Right. So there's lots of corruption here.
Yeah.
But is there freedom of speech and things?
Yes, it's pretty free. We could gather here at the main square and, what is it called?
Protest.
Yeah, protest and stuff, yeah.
I guess you're talking about the corruption and that's the parliament behind us?
Yeah, so this is the parliament office. Yes.
Right. So that's a pretty good sign, I guess. Yeah. The pollution, like what can be done? Because if they're building so many more buildings and they're not putting in public transport and those big power plants are running, and then in winter it's in this basin with these hills and everything gets trapped, it doesn't seem like anything's being done.
Accommodating more people in apartments so that they don't have to burn coal to generate heat and stuff. Right. And also when it comes to cars, encourage more electric vehicles and stuff.
Maybe a metro or something.
Yeah, the public transportation is not enough and it's not that convenient and not that comfortable for everyone.
Thanks for showing me around your city, I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks, mate.
So I hope you enjoyed that video on Mongolia's capital city. Definitely blew me away. Unfortunately, I actually got sick yet again on this trip, and I had planned on making more videos in Mongolia, but yet again, the sick gods decided to bestow on me another sickness. But I'm already feeling a lot better, and I'll be back soon with a new video. A big thank you to everybody in Mongolia who helped me out with my trip. Thank you to the local people for helping showcase life in one of the most brutal living environments in the world. It's great to be back releasing new content after a bit of a hiatus there. If you didn't see the update post I did on Instagram, I took a break after the series I made in Jamaica. At the end of that break, I got really ill for a couple months. One of the worst illnesses I've had in my life. But like I say, it's great to be releasing content again and looking forward to sharing more for the remainder of the year. Thank you so much for watching, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.